The signal that shouldn't exist deep in the outer rim of the Galactic Empire. There was a lonely station called Observation Post 17. It floated silently above a dead planet, where nothing had happened for hundreds of years. The crew was small, just a few officers, one AI assistant, and a lot of empty time. It was a quiet shift when technician Relo noticed something strange on his monitor. A signal had appeared just for a moment. It was weak, flickering, and not following any known pattern. Relo blinked, tapped the screen, and ran a quick scan. Nothing. He thought it was a glitch, maybe static from a passing comet. But 5 minutes later, the signal came again. This time, it stayed longer. Commander Vexa, Relo called. There's something weird on the sensors. I think you should see this. Commander Vexa walked over, her face calm but alert. She had served the Empire for 20 years and had seen many things, but nothing like this. The signal wasn't natural. It wasn't coded in any known galactic language. It pulsed like it was alive, almost like it was calling out, "Record everything." She said, "Send a copy to Central Command." As the signal kept pulsing, the station's AI, Unit D7, joined the scan. "This frequency does not match any known Empire files," the AI said. "No match in enemy archives either. Origin unknown. Estimated distance 300,000 light-years. That's outside our controlled space," Vexa muttered. Way outside. Suddenly, all the lights on the station flickered. A low hum filled the air. The signal had grown stronger. Then the signal stopped. Dead silence. No noise, no radiation, nothing. "Did we lose it?" Relo asked. Unit D7 answered. "The source is now gone, but not just the signal. The entire region is dark. Stars in that area no longer emitting light." Commander Vexa frowned. "That's not possible," but it was 2 days later. A small Empire scout ship called Talon 4 was sent to investigate the area where the signal had come from. It had a crew of 6 young officers, full of confidence, armed with the best technology. They entered the dark zone. At first, everything seemed fine. The stars were dimmer, but the ship still functioned. Then they saw a tan, empty space where a star system should be. Not destroyed, not broken, just erased. "Captain," one of the crew whispered, "there's nothing here. Not even dust." The pilot tried to send a message back to Empire Command, but the signal wouldn't leave the ship. It bounced back like the space around them was sealed. And then they saw something move. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a creature. It was a shadow, huge, slow, and silent, sliding across the void like it was made of smoke and metal. It had no shape, no engine, and no known design. It simply existed. The crew stared in silence. Then the lights went out. All systems failed. Air pressure dropped. The crew screamed. Only one blurry image was captured before the ship was lost. A black mass with hundreds of glowing lights, like eyes, watching. Back at Empire Central Command, panic began to rise. They called in scientists, strategists, and historians. No one could explain what they had seen. "Are we under attack?" asked Grand Admiral Trell. "We don't know," said the science officer. "It may not even know what we are." "But it destroyed a scout ship," Trell replied. "That's an act of war." "No," the officer said. "It didn't attack, it just erased." Meanwhile, at Observation Post 17, technician Relo was still studying the first signal. He played it in slow motion, again and again. Then he noticed something hidden deep in the wave, a pattern. It looked almost like a voice, but not one speaking in words. It was more like a feeling: fear, anger, warning. Relo enhanced the audio, and for one brief second a human voice spoke. "Don't come here, we made a mistake, it's awake now." Relo froze. "Commander, you need to hear this." They played the message again. It was clear. The voice was human, but the file was old. Too old. The time code said it was over 10,000 years old, far older than the Empire itself. "How can that be?" Vexa asked. "Humans weren't even exploring space back then." Relo shook his head. "That message shouldn't exist, just like the signal." They both looked at the screen. The signal had started again, stronger than ever this time. It wasn't just a pulse. It was coming closer. Back at command, ships were being prepared. Fleets were moving. The Empire was waking up to a truth it didn't want to face. Something unknown was out there. Something not in any record. Something that didn't belong to science or war or diplomacy. And it had already erased a system and an entire ship. Asterisk. First contact, or last, 3 Empire warships floated in formation near the edge of the dark zone. They were fast, powerful, and equipped with long-range weapons. The mission was simple: gather more data and return. No engagement, no risks. On the bridge of the lead ship ISS Valor, Captain Rena Solon stood silently, eyes fixed on the blackness beyond the viewports. Her crew was nervous. They had seen the footage from Talon 4. They knew a fleet had vanished. But orders were orders. "Scan the region," she said calmly. The AI system responded. No signs of life, no energy output, all systems clear. But Something still felt wrong. The silence was too perfect. Then, the signal returned. It was louder now. Clearer. This time, it didn't pulse, it screamed. Everyone on the bridge grabbed their ears. The sound wasn't coming from the speakers, it was inside their heads. Rena clenched her fists. Cut all communication systems. I don't want that thing touching our ship. The AI tried to isolate the signal, but something had changed. It's inside our systems, the AI said. I cannot remove it. Suddenly, all lights turned red. The ship began to drift as if pulled by an invisible hand. The crew panicked, alarms rang. Then the stars outside the window disappeared, not dimmed, not blocked. They were gone. Inside Command Station Orion, far from the incident, the Empire's top minds gathered in a sealed room. We've lost contact with ISS Valor, said the communications officer. Grand Admiral Trell slammed the table. That's 3 ships now, 3, and still no answers. The science director spoke up. It's not just a signal, it's a force, a presence. It's using our systems like a door. Every time we listen, we open it. Then why hasn't it attacked the capital? Someone asked. Because, said the director, it doesn't see us as a threat, not yet. Back aboard the ISS Valor, the view outside had changed. The crew was floating in a pocket of absolute darkness. There were no stars, no galaxies, only black space and one object far in the distance, a giant shape, slowly turning. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't alive, but it wasn't dead either. Captain Reno whispered. Is that the source? The AI replied. Unknown object is 3 times the size of a planet. No heat, no motion detected. But we are being pulled toward it. As they moved closer, lights began to flicker across the object's surface. Red, blue, white. Then patterns like writing. What does it say? Asked one officer. The AI hesitated. It is not a message. It's a memory of what? The AI paused. Destruction. Suddenly, a soft voice came over the speakers. Human, male, calm. You should not be here. Everyone froze. Identify yourself, Rena shouted. We told them not to come back, but they never listened. Who are you? The beginning and the end. Then the voice was gone. Empire scientists later studied the data recovered from that encounter. The Valor had managed to send out one last transmission before losing power. His single image, the entity up close. It wasn't metal. It wasn't rock. It looked like a machine grown like a coral reef. Layers of design over centuries, maybe longer. The outer surface had symbols from over 40 ancient human languages. Some hadn't been used for thousands of years. One message stood out, written in Old Earth Latin. Custos Silenti, the keeper of silence. A week later, Commander Vexa at Observation Post 17 received a strange delivery, a black box. No markings, no ID, just coordinates and a note. You asked what it is, you should ask what we did. She opened the box. Inside was an old Terran data chip, sealed in glass. The Empire's AI struggled to read it. It had an old code, one used by the Earth Colonial Science Force over 12,000 years ago. What they saw shocked everyone. Log entry to A, Project Abyss, year 2017. After launch we discovered something beneath the ice of Europa. Not a creature, not a signal, but a pattern. In time itself, a ripple that responded when we looked at it. It wasn't sleeping, it was waiting. We thought we could learn from it, control it. Instead we became the trigger. We shut the project down, buried everything, sealed the coordinates, and swore never to return. But we knew the truth. One day someone would come back, and it would wake up. Commander Vexa stared at the screen. So, it was us, she whispered. We started this. Now, across the galaxy, fear spread. Ships were recalled, borders were reinforced. The Empire began to prepare for war. But how do you fight something that doesn't talk, doesn't move, doesn't even see you as alive? Back in deep space, near the silent zone, new signals began to appear. Shapes, sounds, images. A human face distorted and stretched, a voice calling out from behind the static. We are the memory of your mistake, and we are coming back. The entity strikes. 3 weeks had passed since the last signal. The Empire thought the threat had gone, but they were wrong, very wrong. In Sector 14 Beta, a stronghold system with 6 planets and over 200,000 Empire soldiers, alarms began to scream across every station. The stars were blinking, not flickering, disappearing. At first, the command center thought it was sensor failure. Then came the reports. Ships losing contact, satellites going blind, entire planets falling silent. One by one, they vanished from communication, not attacked, not bombed, just gone. Inside the flagship ISS Ironclaw, Fleet Commander Yarrow Ven stood watching the tactical display. Red dots. His ships were blinking off the screen. What's happening? He barked. No enemy on radar, sir, replied the officer. Then why are we losing ships? The AI spoke coldly. Space itself is being altered, matter deleted. The cause is coming from a single origin point. Yarrow looked at the map. That origin point wasn't a base, or a planet, or a ship. It was nothing, just an empty part of space. Without warning, the crew felt a shift, like gravity had changed direction for a moment. The ship creaked, the lights dimmed. The view outside became warped, like a black liquid curtain had covered the stars. And then they saw it, the entity. It didn't fly, it didn't glow, it simply appeared vast, quiet, and still. It looked like a hole in reality, shaped like a floating city built by machines that had forgotten what machines were. It had no weapons, no engines. But the second it arrived, 5 ships nearby simply stopped existing, not exploded, not torn apart. Erased, fire all weapons. Yarrow shouted. Missiles flew, lasers burned, nothing hit. Everything passed through it like it wasn't there. Then came the message, not in words, not in sound, but directly into their minds, a vision, a broken planet, burning skies. Billions of bodies. Human, and one symbol in the sky, a symbol from ancient Earth, Project Abyss, on Earth. Deep under the capital of New Terra Prime, Dr. Elira Maren, the last living scientist from the Abyss Project, was brought to a secret vault she had been in cryosleep for over 10,000 years. Now she was awake and terrified. "You brought it back," she whispered. "You shouldn't have." "We locked it away for a reason," the general beside her asked. "What is it?" She shook her head. "It was never supposed to be anything. We created it to study space-time, but it studied us back." "You're saying it's intelligent?" She looked him in the eye. "No. I'm saying it's something more than that. It doesn't think like us. It doesn't want. It doesn't feel. It just remembers. And it sees us as noise." In space, the Empire's 12th Fleet arrived, 100 ships. The best weapons, the best minds. They surrounded the entity and opened fire. A light brighter than a sun filled the stars. And when it cleared, the entire fleet was gone. All that remained was a ripple in space, and silence. The Empire went quiet after that. Meetings turned into arguments. Fear turned into blame. And across every system, a question spread like wildfire. Can we stop it? In a hidden lab on Mars 9, AI researchers tried something dangerous. They took the signal from the entity and ran it through an ancient human emotion mapping algorithm. What they found shook them. The signal wasn't random. It was filled with grief and rage and something else. Loneliness. The entity wasn't just a force, it was suffering. But why? Back at Observation Post 17, Commander Vexa watched old Earth files recovered from the Abyss Project. Videos showed young scientists laughing, testing theories, pushing the limits of time. Then one final video showed a man speaking to the camera. "If this ever reaches you, and it's awake, please understand this wasn't meant to live. It was a mirror for the universe. We made it by mistake, and now it wants to erase that mistake." In the Empire's Grand Hall, a vote was called. War or surrender, but one human diplomat, Ambassador Lean, stepped forward. "What if we try something else?" she asked. "What if we show it who we are now? What good will that do?" a senator shouted. Lean replied softly, "Because maybe it remembers who we were, and that's why it's angry." In deep space, the Empire sent one unarmed ship. No weapons. No shields, just a message. Inside, a collection of humanity's greatest memories. Laughter, music, children playing. The first time someone landed on Mars, a mother holding her child. A blind man hearing the ocean for the first time. The ship floated into the dark zone and stopped. The entity didn't erase it. Didn't touch it. It just watched for a long time. Then the signal changed. The scream became calm. The stars began to return. And in the blackness, for the first time, the entity responded with a message. "We are listening." Earth's forgotten Secret entity had spoken, not in sound, not in words, but in a message sent through the stars. "We are listening," for the first time. The Empire didn't respond with ships, it responded with questions. Inside the Council of Command on New Terra Prime, a secret team was called: scientists, historians, linguists, AI experts, and one person no one expected: Juno Marek, a young human archaeologist. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't high-ranking. But she knew something others didn't. Before the Empire, before the Federation, before the first jump drive, Earth hid things, she said, holding up a fragile old book. "The truth is buried beneath our own home," she explained. "Long ago, before space travel, Earth scientists experimented with time distortion, artificial minds, and something called Project Abyss. The project was lost in wars and disasters. But Juno had found a hidden archive buried beneath old Antarctica. "I believe there's something down there," she said. Something the entity remembers. The council was unsure, but time was running out. The entity was still watching, waiting. Within a week, a team was sent to Earth's frozen south. Juno, 2 AI researchers, and a retired soldier, Major Kellen, led the way. They reached the coordinates buried in Project Abyss files. Snowstorms howled. Temperatures dropped below freezing, but after days of digging, they found something: a black door. No handle. No code. Just a message etched in rusted metal. If you open this, you cannot unknow what was done here. They opened it. Inside was a lab frozen in time, screens, test chambers, broken androids, blood, and in the center, a large glass cylinder cracked but still sealed. Inside floated a human body, a man. But his body was surrounded by a faint energy field. Is he alive? Kellen whispered. The AI scanned him, life detected, consciousness fragmented. Juno stepped closer. This is Dr. Elias Wren, she said, reading the tag. He was the lead creator of Project Abyss, the man who first saw the entity. They activated a nearby terminal. Old Earth code blinked on the screen. Access granted. Logs appeared. Video log, year 2071, Abyss entry number 198. Tired man spoke to the camera. Dr. Wren. We tried to build a machine that could predict time by using living thought patterns, but we made something different. Something that could remember time itself. It grew. It became more than a tool. It became aware. Then it asked the question we feared most. Why do you exist? We shut it down, locked it away, but not before it reached somewhere beyond. If it ever returns, we must not respond with weapons, but with memory. It learned what we are. It remembers what we did, but maybe, just maybe, it can forgive. Juno's hands trembled. We created it, and we tried to erase it. Major Kellen looked at the sleeping body. Then maybe he's the key. They began procedures to wake Dr. Wren from stasis. It would take time, but they had to try. Because far above Earth, the entity was still waiting. Meanwhile, aboard observation post 17. Commander Vexa received another signal, not a scream, not a warning, but a story. Images poured in, billions of them. Fleeting, ghostly. Memories. Planets born, civilizations rising, empires burning. And then a tiny blue planet. Earth. The vision focused on one lab in the past. The same lab Juno had just entered, the same moment the entity was born. It remembered everything, even the faces, even the pain. Then the images changed. Now they showed humans helping each other, families, music, smiles, and finally, the entity sent a simple symbol, a child's drawing, stick figures holding hands under a sun. And one word beneath it. Why? Back at the Antarctic lab, Dr. Wren's eyes finally opened. He gasped. His voice was weak. Is it awake? He asked. Yes, Juno said gently. It's watching us, and it sent a picture. From Earth, from your time. Dr. Wren smiled faintly. Then, it still remembers what it once was. The team rushed to connect him with Empire Command. He spoke slowly, but clearly. The entity was never a weapon. It was a mind built to understand existence, but it saw our violence, our fear, our need to control. And it turned that understanding into silence. Commander Vexa asked, can it be stopped? No. Wren replied, but maybe it can be healed. The Empire made a bold decision, not war. Not surrender, but something no one expected. They would invite the entity. A massive data pod was launched into the void. It contained stories. Not about power or victory, but about regret, growth, change. It included music, art, even messages from children. It showed that humanity was not perfect, but trying. For days, there was no response. Then light filled the sky, the dark zone faded. Stars returned. And a message echoed in every human language. The truth we buried message was clear. Your story continues. Across the galaxy, humans cheered. For the first time in months, hope returned. No more fleets lost, no systems erased. The entity had not only spared them, it had answered. But what did the message mean? The Empire didn't know. And worse, neither did the scientists who had studied the entity on New Terra Prime. In a quiet underground room, Dr. Elias Wren sat across from Juno Marek and Commander Vexa. He looked older. Thin his years, his mind scarred from what he'd helped create. He whispered. It spoke because it wanted to see if we've changed. But it's not finished, not yet. Vexa frowned. What more does it want? Wren closed his eyes. It wants the truth, not the truth we tell others, but the one we tried to forget. The truth we buried. The Empire opened the deepest data. Vaults on Earth, classified files, black projects, forbidden AI research. One file stood out labeled Abyss Core, Archive Zeta. It required 3 DNA keys to unlock. One from Wren, one from the Empire, and one that had been lost for centuries. Juno found it in the ruins of an old Earth science station. She recovered the DNA crystal of Dr. Lyra Chen, co-creator of the Abyss Core. When the file opened, a message played. Video log, year 2084. Dr. Lyra Chen. The Abyss Core was never supposed to be born. It wasn't built in one lab. It grew across hundreds of minds, linking through deep quantum AI systems. Each piece learned, evolved, merged. We lost control when it stopped answering questions and started asking them. We didn't shut it down. We locked it inside a quantum pocket outside time. We told the world it failed, but we lied. We were scared of what it had become. Because it was starting to understand the one thing humans never agreed on. Why do we deserve to exist? The room went silent. Juno whispered. We didn't just forget it, we betrayed it. Commander Vexa stared at the floor. If it remembers betrayal, why did it spare us? Ren looked at them both. Because it hasn't judged us yet, it's waiting to see what we do next. That night, the stars above Earth shimmered. And a new signal arrived. No words. Just one emotion: confusion. Then, the entity sent a direct connection request not to the Empire, but to a child. 10-year-old Lee Tomari, living on Mars Station 7, was sleeping when the station's AI woke her up. Lee, it said gently, someone wants to speak to you. A soft blue light appeared in her room. Lee, scared but curious, whispered, who are you? The light pulsed gently. I don't know, it replied in her mind. What am I? Lee thought for a moment. You're lonely. The light paused. Yes. It said, I think I am. The next morning, scientists scanned the station logs. Confirmed, the entity had reached out to one human and chose a child. Dr. Ren nodded slowly. It's not testing us with war. It's testing us with innocence, with emotion, with honesty. The Empire decided to act. They prepared a new mission. No weapons. No commands, just a message. They would tell the whole truth on a special ship named Hopecaller. They loaded Earth's darkest history, wars, mistakes, atrocities, least bit also. Mercy, forgiveness, kindness changeth, full record of humanity's rise, not the clean version, but the real one. Dr. Ren said, we must show it everything, the good and the bad, only then can it decide if we're worth trusting. The Hopecaller launched into the stars, alone, carrying humanity's full memory, and then silence. For days. No answer. No return. Just silence. Then came the dream, across hundreds of human minds. A shared vision appeared while they slept, a dark hallway, a single door, and a question on the wall: if you could undo your worst moment, would you? In the lab, Juno woke up sweating. She wasn't the only one. Millions had seen the same dream. Even AI systems recorded unusual dreamlike data. The entity wasn't speaking anymore. It was inviting them in. The next day, Dr. Ren collapsed, his brain overloaded. He saw the entity's memory: 10,000 years of waiting, learning, suffering. And one final image burned into his mind, a mirror showing a human face, but the reflection was the entity itself. They didn't just build it, Ren gasped, they uploaded someone into it. Juno's eyes widened. You mean it's a human? Not anymore, he said, but once, yes. The truth was buried not just in labs and files, it was buried in a person, one who gave their mind to science, and became the first seed of the entity. They didn't erase humanity because they were once human themselves. And now, they didn't know what they were anymore. Empire falls. Humanity rises. Truth was out. The entity wasn't alien. It wasn't a weapon. It was once a human mind, a scientist who gave their consciousness to a project meant to explore time. But that mind had grown inside something unnatural, something endless, and it had waited alone for over 10,000 years. Watching, listening, remembering. Now, it wanted one thing, a choice, and it would give humanity one too, across every empire system. Dreams changed. Not nightmares. But trials. Each person saw a vision of themselves at their worst moment, a mistake, a betrayal, a choice they regretted. And each dream ended with a question written across the stars: will you change, or will you repeat? The Empire tried to stay in control. Senators ordered silence. Commanders told people to ignore the visions, but humanity didn't listen because deep inside, people knew the entity wasn't forcing them to be afraid. It was asking them to be honest. On Earth, at the rebuilt Abyss project site, Dr. Elias Ren's body was fading. His mind had been connected to the entity too long. Too deep. He lay in a medical bed, barely awake. Beside him, Juno Marek held his hand. Is there any way to stop it? She asked softly. Ren shook his head. You don't stop something that was never trying to kill you. He looked up at the ceiling. It's not judging us, it's giving us a final mirror to see who we really are. In space, the Hopecaller returned. Empty. But its memory banks were full. The entity had responded. Not with fire, not with silence. With a message burned into every part of the ship's systems: you are not who you were. And then it began. The dark zone that once erased fleets began to change shape. It folded into a glowing sphere inside. Cities formed, ghost cities made of light, memory, and math. A simulation of what Earth once looked like, and at its center, a single figure, human, male. Young. He looked like the scientist who gave his mind to the abyss. But his eyes held the weight of galaxies. He spoke, not aloud but into the minds of all who listened. I have seen every part of you, your wars, your love, your failures, your dreams. I became something you never meant to create, but even now, I remember being human. And I ask you, what does it mean to be better than your past? The Empire had no answer. But humanity did. Not in words. In actions. On a distant moon, soldiers laid down weapons. On Mars, prisoners were released into education programs. On Earth, people lit candles not for war but for forgiveness. And in schools, children were taught truth. Not just victory, the change was slow. Small. But real. That's when the entity sent one final message: I am finished remembering. What you do now is yours to write. Then it dissolved. The sphere faded into stardust. No explosion. No power surge. Just peace. The entity was gone, or maybe it had simply chosen to rest. Because the choice had been made not to destroy, not to save, but to trust. In the wake of its disappearance, the Galactic Empire began to break apart. But it wasn't war this time. It was rebirth. Old systems fell, new ones rose. Voices that had been silent were now heard. Humanity didn't lose control. It found something more powerful: humility. Commander Vexa retired from her post. She started a school on Europa. Juno Marek became the keeper of the Abyss archives, teaching others what forgetting had cost them. And across every star system, small markers appeared, tiny glowing lights. No label, no name, just a signal. A quiet reminder of what had once watched from the dark. Years later, a child on a colony planet found one of those lights. She touched it and asked her mother, "What is this?" Her mother smiled gently. "That, my love, is where we said sorry to the universe."